channel. So hello world.
Hello, world.
Morning.
Good morning. It's Friday morning. So, Jackie, tell us about this Michael Austin native guy and how you know him, or how you were familiarized with his work, and then about this article you shared. And I'll put the links in the chat here.
Yes. So Michael is just someone I like found on LinkedIn somehow. I don't know when I
Mm.
started following him or what, but he has always had just really, really great insight on what's going on in crypto, the regulation space, all of that. I routinely encourage people to follow his work because it's very well done. I really loved his post on the Uniswap case that just came up. And he also has I think it's a weekly newsletter called the DeFi Report, but it's just
Mm.
very, very good, smart source information. It's not sensational. It's like these are things that we think have far-reaching implications about like how all this stuff is going to shake out. So, big shout out to Michael.
Mm.
I'm not sure how to say his last name.
Nadeau.
It's really funny that it's a hybrid.
Oh, yeah, the French
Nadeau.
Canadian should know.
Yeah.
Nadeau. Okay.
Nadeau. Yeah.
Thank you, Austin.
So what I like about this post, let me get this link to his post here. Jackie also shared a post because, obviously Roger Williams. Good morning, Roger. How are you doing, sir? Jackie shared this link. He posted this Michael Nadeau posted about the grayscale thing and then bridged the concepts there to Uniswap. So what I guess real Jackie, what are your learnings from grayscale? And then maybe we go to Austin and talk about like what is happening with Uniswap and what is a correlate there.
Well,
Um,
I think in his post he mentions that like Grayscale's getting the attention, but honestly, I agree with him. I think the Uniswap decision is more important. So for people who don't know, Uniswap is it's a DApp, a decentralized application exchange, where you can go buy tokens. So most people are familiar with going on Coinbase, a centralized exchange, and purchasing those, but Uniswap is different in that it can list a lot more tokens. I tell like normie people, it's sort of like Coinbase is like Apple and Uniswap is like Android. Like you can do more stuff on it. Um,
You also get access to the tokens that
DGen
are
token.
a lot cheaper. I mean, if you wanted to get in Pepe when Pepe was the start of the run, you had to go to Uniswap. You couldn't get
Yeah.
it on a centralized exchange. Most tokens start on Uniswap or PancakeSwap, one of those two usually, and then they make their way to a centralized exchange from there.
Correct. Which I think when you're
Yeah,
in the
dude.
crypto space, you can appreciate that process. But some fool out there put $10,000 on random coins.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say you guys say it.
What Pepe? Was it Pepe?
No, like,
No,
oh, I hate swearing on LinkedIn, but on shit coins, he bought
Oh,
$10,000.
I hate swearing on LinkedIn.
I do.
oh my
Everyone gets
god.
no Jackie so you can enjoy her swearing elsewhere. But on LinkedIn, okay, I'll say shit coins. So Uniswap also has an entire corner of the shitcoin hood. That's where we're at. So he lost money on altcoins, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I see, but I
Meme
even
coins, meme
meme
coins.
coins. Okay, we'll say that because I think there's good altcoins out there. And anyway, this man or woman, actually, I don't even know. Their name is Rizzy or something like that. I don't know.
Hmm.
They lost $10,000, so they decided to sue Uniswap for even listing these tokens to begin with.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
the judge on this case is also the judge on the Coinbase SEC case. So I think that's kind of what Michael was pointing out the most, that like this is interesting that it's the same
Mm.
person. And the case was dismissed. The case was dismissed, saying that we can't hold Uniswap liable in the same capacity that we can't, a company that makes self-driving cars, whose fault is it if somebody programs it to or uses it to
Mm.
commit traffic violations? Um,
That's a pretty nuanced answer.
well, and I think it speaks to the fact that this is new technology. It can do new things, and sometimes old laws don't fit the parameters. And I think that's
Mhm.
something Michael's post even pointed out was ultimately the judge said, this is Congress's job to make
Mm.
these new laws about these things. So that's it's a very
Mm.
it's a win, I think, for the crypto community. Um, and
Is
we've
it?
had, yeah.
Yes, it is, and I think it's a huge win in terms of the Tornado Cash case. Because unless they have direct evidence of him directly collaborating with terrorists or drug dealers or anything, the argument about Uniswap, because they don't have control on what people do with their swap, should, and I'm not going to say will, because judges are fickle and everything like that, but should also apply to the developers of Tornado Cash, because they don't control what people do with their software.
Yes.
And
Interesting.
this is potentially a huge relief for developers across the space, because as long as they're not directly doing anything or knowingly doing something that will cause harm or is illegal, what people potentially do with their software is not their fault.
This will
not
be
liable.
nuanced though. What this makes me think of with the IRS, the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, right? In the United States. And I'm sure it's similar in many other, global North countries that have these laws, or any country that has these laws. It's a nuance, it's a fine line. And I actually had a person get caught up in this, and they, in their minds, legitimately knowing this person, were doing legal tax avoidance, but the laws were just ambiguous enough so that government workers, if they really wanted to make an example of someone, the laws were just gray enough that they could make a claim that it was tax evasion, not tax avoidance. And so, this kind of pushes the average consumer or, taxpayer in this example, really stay clear of anything that's kind of misunderstood or gray. With Tornado Cash versus Uniswap, I get what, this idea that Jackie's talking about, like self-driving cars and self-driving apps. And it's yeah, because this is just made to swap. Cool, get it. Tornado Cash, what is its purpose? Its purpose is literally to avoid and obfuscate transactions, correct?
No, it's basically to conduct private transactions on the blockchain. So
say that in IRS English.
I feel like Austin just told you the technology, and Grant, you just pointed out one of its capabilities. But
yeah. So it's it's cash. Tornado Cash is cash. It's just Grant, you can't really I give you $20.
Yeah.
You go spend that $20 at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And then or maybe not even, some local convenience store.
Okay.
And then that convenience store owner spends that $20 on something else in cash. Yeah. No one can track that. And that's the same thing. That's Tornado Cash is essentially that. It's the movement of that $20, and they're just making it so that, maybe I want to send you money, but I don't want anyone else knowing that I'm sending you that money, because
so it's because you're Grant. Privacy.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that in my parallel to tax avoidance versus tax evasion, it's unclear where the correlate is, and I think that's kind of its power. But does that put it at risk for a judge to come in the Tornado Cash case and go, well, they bought this obviously for swaps. You obviously bought this for anonymity. Well, let me ask it this way to either of you. Is it legal or illegal to operate anonymously?
I don't think it's illegal. I don't think either. There's Victor coming in with
Victor. We know Victor. But if you really believed that, Victor, it wouldn't be Victor Rivera on here.
Yeah,
it'd be African art NFTs. Jackie, do you know Victor? You met Victor at NFT.
I don't know that we've ever met. I don't know that we met in person.
He's a faithful degen, but is also part of phenomenal NFT art projects. And I would say Victor is almost like the pusher of undiscovered NFT artists.
I have followed him on LinkedIn for a while.
Okay.
So we are connected on LinkedIn.
Okay, here we go.
I certainly know who he is.
Okay, boom. But Aussie, finish your thought there. I'm so sorry.
No, I don't think privacy is illegal. Money laundering is illegal.
Right.
funding terrorism is illegal.
Okay.
Not privacy.
So do you think so when the telecoms were dealing with this, are you guys aware of the NSA backdoors to all of the major telecoms in the United States? This was the whole Snowden thing.
I think the last time I was on your show, you guys were talking about this.
I don't even know how we got sucked into that. Then sorry, Jackie. You were the most put together person on our show. But for some reason, when you're here, it draws out
it draws out his really dark side,
DGen side. But my point though is in order to be able to move forward unimpeded as a telecom, they had to agree to incorporate these backdoors. Do you think deals like that are on the horizon for things like Tornado Cash?
I think it's too decentralized for that to happen.
Could be.
I think there are other mixers or washers like Tornado Cash that exist, and you can still use them. They're not being pursued. So I think the US and the NSA is gonna realize that trying to get a backdoor into every single one of these washes or other dApps, is gonna be an ever ongoing task, because they come talk to me. They're like, I want a backdoor into your wash app. Well, I can then tell someone, hey, fork the code, spin up a new website, and spin up a new contract. And it's not me. I'm not the backdoor.
You just pointed out the most profound revelation I have personally had in this very moment about crypto and Web3 that I've ever heard of. And the web, I'm serious. When we watch Silk Road go down, and get taken down, and it's Bitcoin being pulled and seized by the FBI. That was a big operation, by the way. And I remember, because I think I told Jackie on Alpha Drop, that's how I first got introduced to Bitcoin, was on the dark net and the dark web. And when Silk Road went down, as a website guy, I'm like, well, you could just copy the site and boot up another one. And I was like, oh my God, that's so laborious. But the ability to just fork the code, that's profound, bro. That is evidence of the exponential growth that has been Web3 from the underside, the tech side. That's the best thing I've heard yet. That's a great point, man. My God. All right. Well, I don't know how we degen from someone as reputable as Maiko Nadeau to Tornado Cash Wash. Have either?
Well, I think
washers. Have either of you used services like that before? Just curious.
I personally haven't. I haven't had the need
used
to,
them.
but I have looked at them, and I do know people that have. I actually know
how they work. Yeah.
I know someone with NATO that's used washes.
Okay. Maybe I need to quit. Go ahead, Jackie.
It's interesting because I have not personally used them, but the people that I do know use them are not dummies, and they're not degens like you think. They're smart people. They're people that know things. I think
meaning they're using them with good cause for good reasons.
I think if you were, lucky enough to get into a lot of this new technology, you're always one step ahead of the game, and you're protecting your assets to the best of your ability. And I would say it's more that. I don't think it's nefarious what they're doing. I think they're just one step ahead of the game. And, the rules of this game are in flux right now. It's very volatile right now. And that's in any field. Money is a field. It's like I said this before, it's a product, it's a thing. There's people, and I was even thinking of this earlier today, money is easy for all of us to have these emotions and feelings and everything about, but it's an industry that's concerned about preservation. It's an industry that, it employs a lot of people.
Mhm.
So it's going through a metamorphosis just like every other industry right
Interesting.
now due to new technology. So if we don't think people within the industry care about the future of their jobs and the future of how they work, you're just being short-sighted. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I agree with you. I just, you know, we talk a lot offline and online to the public who's watching right now. All three of us in different WhatsApp chains and all kinds of conversations going on. And there's always this question, and this is what I like about our particular cohort. I include Jarrett, who's out there in the world, and like our second ring and third ring of friends that we share or don't share. There's always this almost not like conclusiveness, but inquisitiveness of like, is this maliciousness by people in power, or is this some other free hand of the economy, someone else's greed index, and not as a judgment against them? Like, I don't view that as a qualitative flaw in someone's character myself. But when you say this, yeah, money's an industry. Like milk lobby gonna be lobbying, right? Like cheese lobby gonna be lobbying, like the money lobby gonna be lobbying. You know, they're and what they just, like anyone, they feel like everyone always feels like they just got stable. I just
Right.
got stable and making money in my industry. And, you know, and so, yeah, I bet you the biggest proponents of old money, fiat money, Web 2 money, I bet you the biggest proponents are like, come on, man. I just, I just started making mine, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, so I empathize with that.
I've also seen people use washes for very strategic reasons. So they might be very big public figures, maybe in the Web3 space, maybe in other spaces, and they use it to basically make sure people don't follow their trades. Their
Oh,
wallets have been like, people who are very good at snooping the um, snooping the
Or
blockchain have
yeah.
been able to track people's wallets. Track like, oh, this is likely so and so's wallet. And so what they do is they use washes to move money around so that when they're getting into maybe a new project or something like that, and they don't want everybody copying them,
Mm-hmm.
they'll use a wash. So then they don't
Yeah.
have that. And when they're ready to talk about it, they can maybe wash the money back, or they'll do something. They'll expose that wallet.
Jackie,
And
what was
then
that thought? Oh, sorry.
go.
I thought you were done.
well, I mean, it's just I wanted to point out too, like going back to this Apple and Android example that I'm using because I go to it a lot. You know, we have choice in lots of industries, and you like Aussie and I just said we don't use Tornado Cash or whatever. We know about it, we can talk about it. But same thing, like if you want to be safe and you don't want to get wrecked, then go to Coinbase, go to centralized exchanges, like do what you're comfortable with. You don't have to play in every playground just because it's there. And I think it's good in just human evolution that we continue to have these choices and ability to explore, right?
Yeah. Huh. So, real quick, if I may,
Mhm.
BitBoy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Bitbo-
Ben Armstrong. I'll come right out and say it.
Say it.
I've enjoyed Ben Armstrong and BitBoy Crypto for a long time. So I don't know if anyone, did you guys follow his channel or were you?
I was following it for a while.
I listened. He was one of the first crypto
Yeah.
channels that I found in 2020. But I wouldn't say I followed him a lot afterwards, because I very quickly kind of found the showmanship and the very clear kind of like shill, hardcore beliefs in certain like tokens or certain things to kind of sour the taste in my mouth for the stuff that he shared. But
He's very sensational.
yeah,
That's a good word. That's
Yeah.
a good. Aussie, do you in general not prefer sensational characters?
when it comes to crypto, I don't, because I feel like sensationalism in crypto is kind of what tends to mislead people.
I agree with that. Jackie, in general, even outside of crypto, do you tend to gravitate towards or away from sensational people?
I mean, I'm a female, so drama and sensationalism is my second language. Um, no, I mean, I think it's interesting, you know. I mean, I grew up like we had like People Magazine and Inquirer and Star and all these rag mags around the house. And like, yeah, you know it's baloney, but it doesn't stop you from, you know, laughing at the nature of humanity, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll dip in here and there. I actually follow BitBoy Crypto on Instagram, so I actually
Oh,
see clips. Like I don't tend to like watch a full YouTube
I
show
have
or
not
anything like
followed their
that.
Instagram. That's probably a good idea. I don't follow like my Instagram has next to no crypto in it. That's wild. So I had never thought about that.
Yeah, well, I was never big on Twitter or X. So Instagram's always been my main like social platform. And what I like about like Instagram is you're getting a clip, right? You're just like
Mhm.
somebody in their team said, this is the thing we want to take away with for today or whatever. And I will say, I mean, one thing that Ben Armstrong has always been, I think, I don't want to use the word right, but you know, his relationship with XRP and Ripple, I think he's been like calling it for a long time, how things were going to shake out. And
Interesting. I was going to say, how do you mean exactly? And you said that to me in one of our chats. And you mean like predicting the price, or what were you getting at there?
no, not the like the case pretty much. I think it's
Oh,
and also, you know this, I think he's got like an uncle or somebody that's like in XRP. Um,
He's got anybody. I think he talked with the XRP team at one point. He got into XRP early. I know that.
I
I
don't know. Do you guys own XRP? I do not.
yes.
He does.
Yes.
Jarrett and I don't.
It used to be my Cardano holding. So, and not financial advice to everyone watching, but like when I first got my biggest holdings for years, like from like 2015 until maybe 2018, my biggest holdings were Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin. And Ripple it was a huge percentage of my portfolio. And then I had to move some stuff. Actually, if Aussie lost money, or maybe Jarrett, it wasn't Aussie. It was if Jarrett lost money because he followed me into Wonderland Time. Aussie messages me doing his job, watching his bros back, and said, KuCoin's making noises, they're gonna collapse. And I moved all of my stuff and it was down. So I moved all of my stuff, and most of my Ripple was on KuCoin. And I moved it out. I took a bath on it, and um, and then I was sitting there going, nowhere's safe. Like I couldn't even like move it anywhere and put it in cold storage. So it was just sitting somewhere as ETH. And I was like, oh my God. And I never got back in. But my Cardano has been in my Yoroi wallet for a long time. And it's secure over there. It's in its own world. And so now Cardano makes my bigger holding. I like Ripple a lot. And I like it because it's centralized. As an investor, I know it has a future. You know, was that BitBoy's kind of direction? Like he thinks
he
was
just
calling?
thought they were going to win the case,
Yeah.
but what I didn't. Him and his XRP thing was what actually almost like was one of the things that pushed me away. He was always XRP army, all of this, and I was just like, nope. I'm like, it's sitting in a court. I was like, yeah, it could totally win the court case. That's cool, but we don't know when that court case is going to settle. He was calling for ridiculous prices at different points on XRP, and I was just like, yeah, no. When someone's too much of a fanatic like that, that just turns me off.
Red
Well,
flag.
and that's you know, actually that kind of brings us to why I even sent you guys the video this
Oh,
morning.
okay.
So if people know, Ben was asked to leave the company essentially because of his hostile behavior and you know whatever. So and it was funny because when I first heard of it, they said he relapsed and he in the past had an addiction issue. I think it was like cocaine that he was.
Cocaine and meth back in like 10 years ago.
Yeah, long time ago. Cleaned up, whatever. So that I was like, oh wow, like an addiction relapse is hardcore. Like that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But in the video, he says that he was addicted to steroids and diet pills, and that they were making him act very like hostile, which I can believe. I mean,
I can believe Royd's doing that to him.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, even
Yeah,
diet pills. I mean, a lot of them are they're uppers, right? I mean, they like
Given his upper personality, it makes
I was gonna
Right.
say how much that's literally what I was saying is like, well, if you're on the ceiling, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the roof.
Yeah. And he also had an affair, which I thought like the video was crazy because his wife is next to him, and he's like, I was also, and actually towards the end of the video, it was more about his infidelity than like
Really? I
and
need to go
it
back and
sounds like
watch that.
that's what people wanted in the team wanted to talk to him about, because it was sort of like, the elephant in the room that he was having an affair, and they all their team is very close. I mean, they're friends for 15 years, whatever.
Yeah.
So it actually sounded like that was the bigger deal, but it was crazy because like in mid video, he's like, he's crying. He's like, we're gonna work through all these things, my friends, me and my wife, whatever. He's like, and also we've got all these new products coming out.
Yeah, I know. It was super interesting. I watched the video, and like it does seem genuine. I mean, I think, to me, I think having his wife there, and I don't necessarily didn't take the same takeaway about the infidelity being the bigger thing. I think it was like they were talking about how he was so hostile, and so basically when anyone would try to talk to him about it, he was very aggressive, and he very much damaged some relationships and was pretty dismissive and I guess aggressive towards some of his coworkers. He said he always felt ambushed, and I mean, an addict always feels ambushed. So, and when you're that up, it probably makes sense that he felt that way because you're always on edge. So,
Yeah, man.
I mean, to me, it does prove that it is a brand thing. It is a protection of the brand thing. We
Yeah.
talked about this on the space on Tuesday. It's all about protecting the brand for essentially growth and to maybe avoid some of the targeting that I thought it was related to his Ben.eth allegations, but
That's where that's where I was thinking like he's out here shilling stuff,
but it could be just in terms of like it all started about him and how they basically went from going paycheck to paycheck to like he was supporting his family, his wife, and his family, and all of that. And so maybe that was part of the other part of the brand that they were worried about the infidelity getting out and essentially ruining the brand, the BitBoy brand. And so it's kind of an interesting discussion, and I think it really talks to where the crypto space might be going. But I mean, we even
How
missed
so?
some stuff. Well, I think we could see certain brands, especially around content, try and solidify where they stand. Like we're the family, we're the family brand, or we're the fire team, or we're the passive income guys. Like there's the dividend guys on YouTube. There's all of those different people. And so for content creators and content houses, and especially some of the education stuff that they're trying to do, they probably needed to okay, if we want universities to potentially partner with us, we've got to make sure we look clean and professional on all levels.
So, I mean, and maybe, so do you think there was actually a problem? Or were they just in, like, do you think he's not like fired, surprised, unexpected? Do you think he's like, I agree, guys, we gotta, I mean, he still has a stake in the company, right?
He said he might be back in a week. He's like, I don't know how long I'm going to be gone or like excommunicated from this. It might be a week. It might be a month. And I just want to make it clear, like, I'm not saying he staged this or anything like that. Anyone who has overcome a severe addiction like cocaine or meth, and he even mentions it, I've been rock bottom before. So, rock bottom the second time around or the third time or however many times you hit it, you at least I can recover from this. I can find opportunity in this. I can, and I think that's essentially what the video is doing. And I will commend him for even coming out and doing it. I mean, I wish more industries were this transparent and like, hey, guess what? Here's the real deal. Here's the behind the scenes story. But we're not going to keep our eyes off the prize because I have, character flaws, as every human being does.
So will BitBoy channel continue to thrive just by sheer size?
Yeah. They've
Yeah.
got too many personalities. They've got the YouTube algorithm will continue pumping them out, and they've got tons of other personalities on on their different shows that they do. That will they maybe take a bit of a dump? Like they might have a little bit of a hit on view time or anything because you don't have that big personality kind of being your host, but they'll be fine long term.
Yeah. And I do agree with Aussie too that I think like they spun off a lot of brands from crypto, just probably due to how early they were in and their viewership and that. I think it will be I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I lost
Read
it.
that.
Okay. That's all
Mm.
right. That's all
Oh,
right.
that's what I was gonna say. He's sort of like a Grant Cardone figure to me. Like he's got that feeling of like Aussie was saying, like we're the family brand. We want to help people secure like money in crypto and like change your lives, that kind of thing. And I think he even mentioned in the video, he's like, you know, we've spun off more millionaires in
In the
crypto
2020 bull run than
than like
anyone.
anyone else. And yeah, so I think and that's why he's doing this like cleanup right now.
Yeah.
Are there any other channels that we can expect something similar from?
Like a
Cleanup, a big act cleanup.
Yeah, something where they're just trying to, okay, this person is super inflammatory. Like, what are the other inflammatory channels?
Like, are we going to find out Ilio trades?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I haven't thought about Ilio trades in forever. I mean, Alex Becker's gone really hard on his brand. If we look at what on what he's doing, he's really positioning himself again about like towards like young macho males and like and like calling out I guess beta guys and stuff like that.
God.
And like he's really positioning himself in that way to attract that specific audience. I definitely feel like he's positioning. I wonder where Crypto Banner, like if we'll see anything go on with Crypto Banner. That's probably
they're not too inflammatory though, right?
They can sometimes have some comments that seem a little bit off, and there's definitely a few things that are kind of a little bit shaky sometimes that they say, or relationship wise between them, but they're not. I wouldn't say as inflammatory as BitBoy. Altcoin Daily can say get some pretty big flack, and I know Coin Bureau is trying to like clean up who he's working with. I've been seeing that he's looking like he just made a post recently with like looking for new crypto collaborators, and to me that sounds like he's kind of cleaning shop of some of the people that either they're too hardcore in certain aspects or they're falling off the wagon in terms of crypto, and so he's kind of cleaning that up.
What is going to be the big not crypto bros scandal? That's
should we invent one?
Yeah, let's invent one right now.
Let's invent. Well, what are we going to invent? It's got to be surprising. We don't have like a polyamory house like SBF, so we don't have that, and we obviously don't have billions that we've rugged. That's that's the thing. These guys are ruining all the good dramas.
We were secretly smuggling like cocaine across borders from Bogota to Florida to Canada.
Yeah, we
got. The Americas are covered through crypto bros.
That's how we were fueling our crypto addiction.
That's too funny, man. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll have to come up with a good one. Maybe our drama is that we have no drama. And maybe we could like ruffle that up that is its actual drama. We're actually normies. We're like the normies of content creators, right? Like who's the normalest content creator?
That's a great question.
I feel like I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is like Charles Hoskinson. Like he's just so like I love his YouTube channel.
Like I was watching that video. We Aussie, Jackie and I and Rachel shared a YouTube video of Charles Hoskin's last video, and he was just like meandering, explaining um, explaining like why he doesn't get involved in like crypto CNFTs or anything like that. And it was just the normalest guy. And he like his background is this big pane window in a strip mall in his hometown in like Idaho or Wyoming or wherever he's at. And it's just like, well, no, maybe they sometimes send them to me as, gifts. And you don't want to waste them, so I hang them on the wall. But like, that's no way an endorsement. It's like the normalest conversation.
He's like young too. I mean, I think he's like 35 or 36 or something like that. Like, I thought he was older, and then I was like, what? Charles is my age.
Yeah, yo, right? Like, but I mean, he was brilliant, and I do
Yeah.
like Charles. So, no drama here. Oh, what else was on? You guys gave me another article that we were talking about.
I mean, we can talk back to Uniswap briefly because I mean, there was a huge statement made by the judge that ETH and Bitcoin are commodities. So this is like a greater and greater piece that's coming out that is solidifying ETH as a commodity. ETH has been argued whether it's a commodity, whether it's a security for a while. This has kind of been one big bone of contention between the CFTC and the SEC of late, and we're now seeing more and more rulings coming from judges and others that are saying, "Hey, ETH is a commodity," and we're kind of seeing the SEC and Gary Gensler roll on this. They're giving up the fight on this particular issue. The fact that they're allowing ETH ETF futures to be applied for and considered is massive because that is them essentially admitting defeat.
Jackie, so you shared with us a resource from Rick Edelman's group, DAC-FP.
Yes.
What was kind of the TLDR on this PDF?
Well, that was on the spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Oh,
but yeah, that was. And if anybody goes to dacfp.com, I think there's like a pop-up that comes up. You can get the white paper. It's free. You can get it emailed to you or download or whatever. Which, I mean, I'm so fortunate to work with this group because I feel like I don't think I'm getting inside information because they're very public, and Rick has a daily podcast on YouTube. You can check it out, The Truth About Your Future. But I will say to Aussie's point, when I was at the Vision conference in June, which was, the largest and longest running digital assets conference running. There were people from the SEC there, heads of banks. I mean, the highest of the high were there. And it was, I would say, generally accepted that Bitcoin and ETH were commodities. And it was actually interesting too, because he had French Hill. Rick had a conversation with him, and it almost sounded like there was this like infighting between the commodities and futures versus the SEC and how Gary Gensler was handling all of this. My original thought years ago was that anything that was proof of work would be a commodity and proof of stake would be a security. So it's interesting to me now that ETH is a proof of stake protocol. What makes ETH different than Solana then? What makes ETH different than Avalanche then? So I think that's where it's interesting to me on how we're going to decide what makes ETH different than Cardano. Why would one be a security and one be a commodity?
I wonder if it's how the distribution of biggest holders are, and
you've said this before, yeah.
And I would say distribution of holders and distribution of nodes, and slash validators. How they're distributed, because even though there's a decent portion with Lido, which is a service, one could argue that it's hundreds and thousands of different people that are using Lido as a service, and so it's not really a centralized entity. Whereas Solana runs most of their own nodes on AWS or wherever they run. I think it's AWS. And I've heard the same thing about Avalanche, that they're at least a good portion of the network, although not all of the network, is run by basically centralized validators rather than decentralized validators.
So what's interesting about that is the seeming paradox. We believe that the SEC wants something to be centralized, but this kind of rubric, Aussie, if what you're saying is the reasoning, then they're fighting for more decentralization?
Yeah, they're
Is
fighting
it
for greater decentralization in terms of what gets defined as a commodity and what gets defined as a security. I don't
I see.
necessarily think that the SEC and the CFTC care about privacy.
Of
Privacy or
course.
decentralization doesn't matter to them. It's whether it'll meet a criteria of decentralization that they can argue that it's a commodity or not.
Hmm.
Uh, the arguments around privacy uh, and like what we're seeing with the case against Tornado Cash, that's a Department of Justice, U.S. Army, potentially Congress type argument that's happening. That's not a SEC CFTC argument. And so you're kind of seeing different parts of the government. One part of government cares about privacy. One part of the government is more focused on is this decentralized enough that we can argue that it's a commodity?
Well, and then there's the other element which none of us are talking about yet, which I'd like to bring up, and Jason Lowry's take that this is not just a privacy issue. This is not a consumer, retail, financial issue. This is a national security issue. And for him, it's largely around Bitcoin and blockchain. How much of these conversations is another dynamic pulling at or putting pressure on SEC rulings and judgment rulings? Like, how much, like, do you think this is entering the conversation for the SEC at all? Or do you
In the
think that
back rooms. I don't know
that's
if
what
it's
I'm wondering?
I don't know if it's in at the SEC level, but in the governmental level and like within the White House and everything like that. I think in the executive branch, this is probably a conversation that's going on in the back rooms. It's not a prominent discussion, but it's a backroom discussion.
Jackie, what's your familiarity with any of the conversation around like Jason Lauer? Did we talk about soft wars
We've talked about software with
with
Jarrett a few times. I don't know if we talked about it with Jackie yet.
I am familiar with this whole push, and to me, I don't want to get like too deep here, but
sure.
I think everything comes down to how do we source the things that make all of this go. So what I mean by that is I think you guys are probably familiar with like the tragedy that is cobalt sourcing right
Yeah.
now. You know, we have thousands of people in legitimate human slavery mining cobalt that goes in all our batteries that makes our little cell phones and everything else go. And to have anything digitally native like Bitcoin, like crypto, you have to look at what countries have a stronghold on sourcing those rare earth materials, minerals, all of those things, um, because that will drive how international law works, how it drives power dynamics. So I again, I'm trying not to get too deep here. Um, but I think that's something we all have to be cognizant of in tech. Like if this is what we're pushing and this is what we're saying, I always encourage people. It's why I love proof of work so much because yeah,
Yeah.
Jared, entirely right. It's why I love proof of work so much because it forces you to understand this is not invisible things that are happening.
Yeah.
There's mining happening. There's legitimate turning 3D materials into metaverse material or digital materials or whatever. So I think that's where you start to really get into the national security concerns.
Wow, you just said a sentence that we will not unpack here, but we went through. You worked at a newspaper, Jackie, helping enter traditional media into the digitization age. And as you're talking about this visual came to mind of okay, now that we've digitized information, like we're in the omniscience age, we've digitized all of our information. What we're doing now is digitizing our raw material. We're literally taking physical cobalt, we're slapping it on the blockchain in your supply chain world. But then what's more, it's now whether itself or whether it gets alchemized into our virtual spaces, we're literally consuming this material. That visual struck me sideways for sure. And going back to this military thing and like figuring it out, the as a national security issue, we were able to, with Web 0.0 and Web 1.0, we spent almost 50 years allowing the industrial military complex to figure out what they were doing first.
Mhm.
And then they rolled it out to us. This really is an upside down, topsy-turvy rollout that they're trying to figure out. And so, like, here, I mean, everything that went on, like Satoshi shows up and goes, here's money. And like, Ethereum then shows up and is like, here's Web 3.0. And then the government wakes up and goes, come again.
Well, what was I mean, wasn't there somebody like 3 billion in Bitcoin was just discovered in some like random wallet or
It's Robinhood. So
I think we found out it was Robinhood.
okay.
Yeah, you were hoping it was the government, weren't you?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying, but I mean, honestly, these discoveries can come out at any time. And to your point, Grant, if I can set up a small solar farm somewhere and, use that energy to mine Bitcoin or whatever, and then I can, that Bitcoin can immediately be traded. It immediately has value. Like, what are the implications of that throughout the world? And so I think, honestly, these ETFs and everything coming up, like getting the institutions in here is going to mitigate that type of chaos. And despite how people feel about that, there's probably a necessary reason for that to exist.
Well, go ahead, Aussie, please.
And it's interesting because the ETFs all got delayed by another 45 days yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. We were all excited. We were all like, woo.
Everyone was like, Grayscale, we're getting ETFs, yay. Bitcoin's going to 100,000 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we get everything's delayed. And I'm like, Grant, on Tuesday, I called Grayscale a nothing burger.
Yeah.
And who was right? Bitcoin is right back where it was.
Oh, is it? I didn't even check.
Grayscale.
I haven't even looked at the price today. You're right. You were right. I was talking to Crypto Mommy, though, on Twitter. We were chatting. She was rolling out, like, whatever her schedule. Now, like, anyone going to permissionless is like, here's my schedule. And George Totorola was like, what are you guys doing? And this is kind of when these events kind of get a little more exciting, but also you start to feel like the crush of the chaos of what these events are going to be. And it's like, can I just eat barbecue and attend? Like, can we just do that? But Crypto Mommy was talking.
We're going to In-N-Out Burger on the Saturday night. Or Sunday. I think we're going to In-N-Out Burger on Sunday. Don't worry.
Simple. Let's keep it simple. But she was mentioning the same thing that I think Jackie and I and Rachel talked about. I think you mentioned on Tuesday and Jarrett mentioned, and it seems to be the consensus that once these ETFs and institutions roll out, this money starts to get locked up in cold storage. And that decreases velocity and that decreases volatility. And so the trading class, the traders out there, are kind of like going, oh, man. And so does this kind of extend the party because volatility is where money is made? Or do you think that there's
I hope so. Selfishly, I'm like, can we just get one more rager in? Can like one more bull run of just like debauchery like happen?
I think there's going to be a lot of debauchery in this next bull run still.
You think?
If we look at one example that a lot of people like to use talking about the Bitcoin ETF is the gold ETF. The gold ETF took a few years before it really had an impact and a stabilization factor on gold. If we look at the data, I think it came out in 2004. My dates might be a little bit off, but it was 2008-ish where, I think it was like 2007, 2008, where gold took the huge jump to the price where it is and has stabilized essentially in that area. And so at least my thinking is that we probably have this next bull run where we kind of get a little bit of that. It's still kind of degen. It's still kind of everything because the ETFs, what everyone isn't thinking about is they can only basically start buying Bitcoin when they have people buying the ETF. And so you might not have the immediate adoption and the immediate of BlackRock telling their investors, hey, come buy Bitcoin. It's a good investment as part of your portfolio. And people actually listening is going to take a little bit of time.
but they're still going to seed it.
They'll
Like,
seed a little bit, maybe 100
yeah.
million. Like, but consider the market cap of
True.
Bitcoin.
Sure.
Bitcoin's in the billion, like several billion. I mean, the market cap of crypto is $1 trillion. Even if each company, I think there's 10 companies, maybe a little bit more, you're talking about $1 billion seeded
Sure.
into Bitcoin. That combined doesn't even make them exceed Robinhood in terms of Bitcoin holdings.
And these ETFs don't include shitcoin season, altcoin season, and only a few might even start really incorporating Ethereum, if at all.
None of them will include Ethereum until we get to the futures ETFs that will get approved at some point, likely before the spot, although we're not 100% sure.
Interesting. So Jackie, don't worry. The party's on.
I keep thinking about like, I think it must have been late 2020 when Clubhouse came out, right? Late 2020, like
it had to have been,
like Christmas Eve of 2020. I remember getting on and like it was amazing for crypto because like there were so many people like deep in the industry in there, and I always like wonder. I'm like, okay, it's 3 years later, like. Is some random thing I bought into like just going to like come around? And I remember there was this guy who was a gold miner. I can't even remember where he was like, but his social accounts like actually showed him and his team like mining gold, like the real stuff, putting a timber down to try to get the vehicle over and like all these behind the scenes. So he was like an actual like sourcer of gold, and he created this token that you could like. It was almost kind of like a stable coin, like you could without all the like actual legal stuff behind it. But you were buying this token and you were actually getting exposure to like an ounce of gold that was actually held somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was like $99 to like buy the token, and like I still have it. And he hasn't like posted anything recently in like the last 2 years. So I'm like, okay, it either just like went defunct, but there's like still this thing and like. And my most successful things in crypto have been like surprises like that, like out of nowhere, something I did, 6 months ago or 8 months ago, all of a sudden comes back around. So
keep the dream alive, Jackie. Like keep the dream alive. I have a few bags where you're like, well, maybe my 35 million of that coin's actually going to pop one day.
Oh my gosh. You know how well I did on Mana when it went to like $4 or something? Like I was like, yes.
I'm a genius. So quick question for the both of you with micro moments left in today's show. Flat coins.
Do we pitch Coinbase on our flat coin proposal?
Oh, maybe we'll do the NCB flat coin, but no, they're doing their own flat. Oh,
no, they're asking. Coinbase Ventures is asking for someone to pitch them on how they're going to develop a flat coin.
Okay, so Jackie, are you familiar with flat coins?
No, I'm looking it up now.
So there's stable coins which are pegged to the US dollar. Jackie, you might love this.
But they go up with inflation. So
they're pegged to the CPI.
They're pegged to CPI. So their purchasing power never is eroded.
Okay. I'm on Tokopedia looking this out right now.
So
Coinbase.
Grant, pitch Coinbase on our flat coin idea.
We could call it Pax Romana, and then we could literally just make it like Caesar's coin. But like I'm telling you, we should pitch because Jackie, what happened is Coinbase has now come online on Instagram pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
And their Instagram account, they recently posted that they have a huge venture fund that they're like, listen, here's some of the projects we want to see pitch. Pitch us these projects. And the flat token was something Aussie and Jarrett and I stumbled on 2 months ago or so, give or take. And the idea of pegging to consumer purchasing power, consumer price index or purchasing power was profound. And with your focus on, or just your constant attention on equanimity, I thought it might be something you might dig looking into further is the flat coins, but we don't have a reliable one yet. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Me, nothing. I was just going to say, I'm going to look into this more.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any flat coins out there?
That's what we're doing at permissionless. I think we just found out what we're doing at permissionless. And Jackie, you better come down because you're part of the
I know.
meeting.
Can I just a call to action out. If anyone wants to sponsor my trip to permissionless at this point,
Let's get it
I will
together.
give
Yeah.
you my Venmo, Cash App. I've like reached out to a few people. I'm like, so do you guys want to send me to permissionless? And they've been like, not really.
Yeah.
So if somebody out there wants to see Jackie Roach
I'll
reporting
show
live
you.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
permissionless,
That's too
I'm
funny.
accepting funds.
But I'm expecting now, I mean, it would be interesting to see what tricks the government pulls on the first entrance into those who enter the space of flat coins.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead,
if you do it
Austin.
under Coinbase Ventures, you're protected. Because
Oh, is they know the Masonic hand gestures, and they're like, "Welcome to the centralized."
His hand.
What is it? The Cyclops, the Eye of Ra.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's too funny.
Not that I've looked into this too much.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, we degen the last 5 minutes of the show. Please enter our Flatcoin. So I just thought it was curious. And honestly, on a serious note, do we know of any actual Flatcoin projects that have actually launched?
Frax has been working on building their Flatcoin. They're a stable coin right now, but they've been working on building their Flatcoin. I don't know if it's really fully there yet. It doesn't. I know it doesn't have a lot of wide scale adoption yet. So they're the one that I can think of off the top of my head, but I don't know of anybody else really going for the space just quite yet.
You know, when I first heard about flat coins, I laughed. I had an LOL moment like later in the day when I thought, for the type of for the reason Satoshi launched the Bitcoin white paper on the wake of the Occupy Wall Street movement, wanting to throw off the man, and then you jump forward to whoever came up with the first stablecoin idea. I don't know who came up with. I don't know what the first stablecoin. Maybe it was Tether. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out who. For all of the bluster about trying to get off the man's system, to peg a token to the very problem of inflation that a lot of those who have a revolutionary spirit in the crypto space, I had to LOL that it was such an oversight to go, well, we'll still peg it to the US dollar. Like, why did we get involved in this in the first place? You know?
Well, to your point though, I feel like one of the best things about crypto, and I think Dan Held has said this for a while, is, you know, when you get in, you start to learn all of these things you didn't know about money, all of these things you didn't know about how commerce happens, all these things, national security. I mean, look at how many topics we touched on in 1 hour today.
Yeah.
And to that point, like me going down this flat coin rabbit hole, thank you guys.
Yeah, you're gonna thank us in like 7 hours when you're like when you didn't sleep and you you drank 4 cups of coffee just to try and keep your eyes and remember what you learned.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I'm even just my cursory research right now, like just a few websites I went on and a few words I've had to look up on dictionary.com. I mean, this is like, to me now, I'm really excited about this because this is something where if I'm learning right now, then there's a ton of other people that could learn as well. So I'm kind of hot on this Flatcoin thing now. I think this would be a great
so just come up with the name, Jackie, and that will be Not Crypto Bro Show, sponsored by
this Flatcoin.
Definitely financial advice. I thought we had already settled on the name.
What's going to be the name of our Flatcoin project?
It should be like fiat coin, but like the L is like a capital I, so it looks like flat coin, but it's fiat coin.
Oh man, I dig it. I dig where this is going. Like, we need visual parodies. I'm down with that. That's so funny.
It's like my AOL screen name, like days coming back in. Like, how can I
like using funky characters to spell other things? My first AOL screen name, because I thought I was going to create a revolution, because I was into anonymity back then. This is why the anonymity thing in Web 3.0 really makes me laugh, because that was the purpose of Web 2.0. Like, we were like, we're going to come up with a handle and no one's going to know it's us. And so mine was Na pentothal, sodium pentothal. And which is a truth serum for those who don't know. And it was like NA pentothal. No one will get it. And I wrote like these very long form, like, what's wrong with the world today? What's wrong with the church? And like within 4 hours, yeah, like everything. I was just going nuts back then. And within 4 hours, my buddy emailed me like my other like actual emails, like, Grant, is this you? And I was like, it's like, oh shit. Like,
Oh my gosh.
You've been
I can't
discovered.
even-
what'd you say, Jackie?
My first screen name, I can't even believe I'm telling this story. I think I was like 8 when I first got on AOL. We were like the first family to like, have a computer and stuff like that in the neighborhood. My first screen name, because I was so young, it was like based off Winnie the Pooh. It was Honey Pot.
Oh my God. You were 8?
I was real young. Like in AOL, like I remember the disc coming in the mail and like,
Oh, yeah,
we didn't know anything back then. Like there were AOL chat rooms I definitely shouldn't have been in at like.
No, the FBI is like, the hell? Did you come up with this account? And you're like, I didn't come up with that
Honey Pot.
account.
I mean, and then like, oh my gosh, I remember.
I mean, that even has massive connotations now.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Like,
I remember one time I was playing Yahoo Pool and some guy, like my screen name was Honey Pot, whatever. And I'm like, and we had like the computer in like the living room and my parents were like on the couch. So they could like see what I was doing and everything. Yeah. And I like turn around and I say to my parents, I'm like, oh God, what was never mind. I can't remember the word this guy used. Anyway, this creepy old man was like totally trying to like,
oh my gosh. Chat me up. That's where we got the term. That's where we got the term. Quit chatting me up.
What is that word when guys are like infertile?
Infertile?
Yeah, like they're impotent. Yeah, impotent. He's telling me in Yahoo Pool, and I turned to my parents. I'm like, "What does impotent mean?" And they're like, "What? Who are you talking
to?" We're laughing, but because it's
awful.
It's awful. It's awful.
The internet is a terrible place.
But don't laugh if your kid turns to you and asks you the definition of impotent. So
all of a sudden they were just like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Playing Yahoo Pool, putting an old English spin on this white ball." Like, oh my gosh.
Well, this has been episode 94 of Not Crypto Bros, where we literally covered a huge gamut of topics. This is Jackie Roach of wellness.com, Aussie from Decentralized News. Hopefully we learned something here. I actually learned a ton, but like I'm trying to even cover all the topics in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what the thumbnail is going to be. It's going to be like BitBoy with a stable coin. I don't even know. Jason Lowry and then like English spin on a pool table. I don't even.
You don't even know what's going on.
I don't even know what's going to happen. But guys, we're going to be at Permissionless. But in the meantime, join us next Tuesday on Twitter Spaces. Aussie Jarrett and I will be tackling that. Jackie might be in or out from that as well. And then Friday at 10 a.m. Catch us. Not Crypto Bros, guys. Thanks so much.